Hey guys, I've had a couple questions now about rearranging the formula for calculating sources with the Doppler effect, so the Doppler equation, and looking for things like Vs or Vw. So I figured I'd do one of the questions and send it to you. So this is page 432, number 3. You can see that the question's giving you Vs, giving you Fd, which is the actual frequency that the sound is being heard at, and we know that the source frequency is 240. So we're going to use our Doppler equation, and this is coming towards us. It's approaching us, which means we need to subtract. So here we go. Our Doppler equation is Fd is going to be equal to Vw over Vw minus Vs. All of that is multiplied by Fs. So the first thing that probably you want to do is put in your numbers because it makes doing rearranging a little bit easier. So I'm going to have 260 equals Vw over Vw minus Vs, but my Vs is just 25. I'm not going to put in my units because it makes rearranging a little bit more difficult. So here we go, and now I need to rearrange. So I'm going to use a different color. When I rearrange here, the first thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of the 240, because on the right-hand side, that's the only thing that's on the outside of the brackets. So in order to get rid of the 240, I'm going to have to divide both sides by 240. So if I divide both sides by 240, what happens on the right is the 240 disappears. And what happens on the left, 260 divided by 240, is going to equal 1.083 repeating. Now what I'm going to have on the right-hand side, and I'm going to drop the W just because, again, it's a little bit easier. I have V on the top, and I have V minus 25 on the bottom. So I still have my V's, but I can't get rid of the negative 25 yet because it's underneath the dividing symbol. So now my next step, I'll do my next step in red. What I have to do is I have to multiply both sides by V minus 25. And then I have to multiply the left-hand side again by V minus 25. And then on the right-hand side, the V minus 25 disappears. So now what I have to do is I have to take on the left-hand side this bracket that I just pointed to with my blue arrow. I have to multiply by the 1.083 by both things on the inside of the bracket. So if I multiply the 1.083 by the V, I'm going to get 1.083 V. And then if I multiply the 1.083 by the 25, I'm going to go 1.083 multiplied by negative 25. It is going to get me negative 27.075. And then I'm going to say that that is equal to V. Now my next step, and I'm just going to keep switching colors here because it makes it a little bit easier to see, my next step is get the V's on the same side. So in order to get the V's on the same side, I have 1.083 V on this side, so I'm going to take minus 1.083 V on the left-hand side, and I'm going to subtract on the right-hand side 1.083 V as well. And then on the left-hand side, my 1.083 and my 1.083 disappear. So now what I have is on the left-hand side, I still have my negative 27.075, and on my right-hand side, the first variable here is just a 1. So I have 1V minus 1.083 V, so I'm going to do 1 minus 1.083, and that is going to get me an answer of negative 0.083 V is equal to negative 27.075. And now I have one last step here, and I'm going to go in blue again. To get rid of the number beside the V, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 0.083. Divide this side by negative 0.083. So I have negative 27.075 divided by negative 0.083 is going to get me an answer of V is equal to 326 meters per second. And actually, I just went back and checked because this isn't the answer that it gives you. Right here, when I got that answer where I'm showing you in black, this was actually 3 repeating. And if I use that for this number, I'll get the answer in the textbook, which is 325 meters per second. So I wasn't as precise as I should have been.